Our next question is from Stephen.
Hey, this is Steven from Minneapolis. I've got a question regarding, our toddler. She is a 3-year-old, and we've noticed she's been hoarding her belongings kind of like a troll from Lord of the Rings. My wife and I, we don't behave that way, and we try to keep our house pretty tidy and organized in a nice and neat way. Our child sometimes will freak out if something's removed from order, even if it doesn't look organized to us. And she'll hold on to remains of toys, even if it's something that appears to be garbage to, a normal adult. Teddy bear missing a limb from the dogs, Barbie doll missing clothes, parts to toys that are not found complete, etc. What should we do to prevent our kid from being a hoarder later in life?
Stephen, the thing to note right now is that children hoard. They tend to, because hoarding is childish. Letting go is a sign of maturity, or at least the willingness to let go. Doesn't mean compulsive letting go of everything, never holding on, but understanding children, as they're exploring, they often accumulate. And they accumulate out of a sense of curiosity, but also out of a sense of uncertainty. I don't know if I'll be able to get this back. And so one of the reasons we hold on to things as children or as adults is what? Because I don't know whether or not I'll be able to replicate this. It goes back to that scarcity mindset you were talking about, Ryan.
Yeah, man. Stephen, what he's asking for here is like, hey, do you have any advice for how to set up boundaries for my kid who wants to hoard stuff? And I think it's a great opportunity. Like if, let's say, I don't know, there's some kind of flat surface in a room, whatever it is, and there's always these things that sit on there, and it looks really, really cluttered. And you move one of them and she's like, where did my such and such go? Oh, well, on that desk, we're only going to have 6 things on that desk. And you get to choose your top, 6 things, your favorite 6 things. Like I'm sure there are opportunities like that to help her start setting those boundaries. And that's what your job is as a parent anyway, Yeah,
absolutely. And as an adult, your job is to set boundaries in your own life as well, to be your own parent in a way, because no one's going to come in and show you how to let go and that you should let go. And by the way, be wary. If some minimalist shows up at your doorstep and says, you should let go of your excess, okay, what's their agenda here? Are they trying to take my stuff? Are they robbing me? And there's this great clip you sent me the other day. I've watched it a dozen times, Ryan. Even though I have Instagram on my phone, I log in and I'll show Bex the clip. And this guy is on a survey he's on the street taking surveys. And this lady walks, can I have a moment of your time real quick? And she's like, yeah, sure. He goes, okay, if you were attacked by a random attacker on the street, do you think you could defend yourself? And she goes, no. He goes, all right, good. Give me your money. Oh my gosh. But isn't that what clutter is doing to us as well? It's robbing us, and it puts us in that mindset. And this is what hoarding does in particular. It puts us in a scarcity state, and it reinforces our scarcity because it says, I have this superabundance of things, and we then correlate that superabundance of things with the abundance mindset, but it's not. There's an inverse correlation between the superabundance of things and the scarcity mindset.
Absolutely, man. First of all, you just described advertisers in a nutshell. Right?
Nice start.
That's totally it. Children, man, they do some of the most concerning things. Even when they do the most delightful things, they have a propensity to do them in ways that show up for us as concerning. Not because they're inherently concerning, that's a label that we impose on it, but because they are in the middle of exploring things, learning the boundaries, figuring it out. They're not leading with a sense of this is right and this is wrong. They're leading with the sense of this is interesting, this feels good, this feels fun, this has my attention. And so as parents, we're coming in terms of like the moral boundaries, the safety boundaries, and the kids are coming in being led by curiosity, interestingness, instinct, impulse, and they're learning all of that stuff as they mature. And so even when they do things that are cute, sometimes they can do it in a way that might make us a little afraid. And when we feel that fear, we have this tendency to want to just solve it by imposing a rule, taking something away, or throwing down a gauntlet of some kind. But I think about the Augustine quote, seek first to understand, then to be understood. To be understood is about getting our concern and our point to be tended to, whereas to understand is to adopt a disposition of curiosity about what we're observing and saying, hey, let me make myself a student of whatever's going on here. And we've talked about this before, but anytime your children are engaging in patterns of behavior that seem concerning, the number one thing you want to do is make yourself a student of that and understand. There's always something more than meets the eye when it comes to the choices that kids make. And so if your kid is exhibiting this tendency to hoard, it would make me ask a few questions like, are they getting this from anything they are observing at home that we might not be sensitive to? Kids tend to be much better at picking up on how we behave than we pick up on how we behave. Are there areas of life where we function and think and speak like hoarders that we're not even aware of that my kid is learning from? Or is there an element of fear? Is there something going on where my child has a fear of never being able to get something back if they give it away, or never being able to get something good? Is there a scarcity mindset? What's going on there? I don't know what the answers are. Those are only a couple of many questions that you can ask. But I would respond to that, especially when it shows up in the moment, by paying attention to it and trying to ask them about it in a way that doesn't make them defensive. You know, we were hanging out with some friends recently, and we're in the kitchen, and one of their little kids has a bunch of grapes. And I said, hey, man, can I have a grape? And he goes, no. And I go, I can't have a grape. Ah, man. And then like a minute later, he like offers me a grape, right? And I didn't expect that. And no, that's not what you're always going to get. But there's more to who human beings are than the initial impressions we get from the things they do. And we have to have the courage and the curiosity and the creativity to look beyond the things people do when they say no or when they do something that looks concerning, to ask the kinds of questions that help us understand the heart, because that's where the power for influence lies.
First, seek to understand. Man, that's interesting because like with a 3-year-old, as a parent, I mean, there's no regulation or law that says this, but it's almost you have to be that way. You have to seek to understand. And it's funny because there is a certain point where I don't know what age we get to where we're like, oh no, like we're going to project all of our understandings on someone else. And especially as a parent, because it's like, especially if you're raised where parents done that to you, then now it's your house. And it's like, no, I don't need to understand you. This is my house. You need to understand my rules. And like that is going to get nowhere. But to seek to understand, like that might help diffuse it a little bit. Man, I really want to talk about, I want to take a left turn here, man. I want to talk about feeling like an adult. Can I talk about this?
Yeah.
So I had this realization lately, like there was at some point in my 20s where I started to, in the corporate world, drink and do all that stuff. And it worked really well at first. And it stopped working just like drugs do. But what I realized is that there was a certain point in my life where I was waking up and there was like this adult version of Ryan Nicodemus that was just begging to like be released. And I just kept just advocating my true adult responsibilities. And what I mean by that is I was skating by on the minimum. Like I was getting by as an adult on the bare minimum. And it wasn't until, and again, don't know what age this was, but it wasn't until I really started to embrace the responsibilities and like really see the power in boundaries. Like there's a power through boundaries, and really looking for that. But the point being is I think for me, and I think someone else probably will relate with this, I was miserable because I refused to stop being a child for so long. And when I see someone who is hoarding so much, it's like, I don't look at them like they're childish, but it is child behavior. And there is something in there that they don't realize they're doing to themselves. And all I can say is that when I started to honor that adult within me, when I like really, the way I look at it, I know this is weird, but I'm weird. But the way I look at it is I am a parent to like 6-year-old Ryan Nicodemus. And that has really helped me, because like when I really think of because that's my favorite kid in the world, and when I think about him and he's looking at me and it's like, what am I gonna do to that little kid? Am I gonna like just do to him what my mom and dad did to me? Or am I gonna like be a good parent to him? And I'm just sounding like the more I started like using that context, I feel like an adult, dude. Feel like an adult. Took me like 35, 36 years to get there, but
well, what you're talking about there is the understanding that you have now. And I love what you talked about a moment ago, not heaping your understanding onto the kid, battering them with your understanding. And I'm really good at that, especially as a parent myself. And telling Ella this is the way it should be.
Yes.
There was something really similar the other day that what TK was talking about. We went to the farmer's market. This was just yesterday, in fact. We were at the farmer's market and she's like, oh, please, can I buy some strawberries? And I'm like, yeah, of course. We'll get some strawberries. And we go over there and pay $5 for this thing of strawberries. And she's holding it and it's overflowing. He in fact gives her like 4 extras on top. It's overflowing. And I'm like, Ella, can I get one of those? And she's like, the look on her face is like, hell no, you can't have one of my strawberries.
Dude, she did that shit to me one time.
And so what do I turn to? I said, Ella, I will take the entire thing of strawberries from you. Oh, man. I just paid for them. And the better response would have been, oh, you know what? Why don't you want to give me one of those strawberries? That curiosity would have been a much better way to teach her without teaching her anything.
Yeah.
Because yes, I could teach her through force or through power. Damn it, I just bought those strawberries, so I'm going to take as many of those damn strawberries as I want.
Yeah.
What does that do? Now it's an adversarial relationship. And that's when we get back to Stephen and his question, it's not about having an adversarial relationship with your kid. It's about, as Ryan alluded to, setting up the boundaries, not punitive boundaries. And that's where we have to be really careful. As a parent, it's really easy to be punitive toward your kids because what? They don't share your preferences.
Yeah.
You go to my daughter's room, there are still boundaries that we require for her, right? But it has way more what I would consider to be clutter, but it's not clutter for her. These are things that enhance her life in some way. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to let her collect every stick or rock, or if she found a dead squirrel, she's not bringing that into her room. I'm going to set up those boundaries for her as a kid because there's some things she may not understand. And even then, I can talk to her in a way that is more curious. Tell me why you want to bring the dead squirrel in your room. Tell me why you want to have that collection of rocks on your desk. And what happens when those rocks get in the way, when you have too many? Asking those questions as opposed to saying, here's how you need to do it. Here's the sequence. Here's how many things you need to do. Well, it doesn't allow her to think about it on her own.
Yeah. How old was Steven's little girl? Did he say?
I don't think so.
Well, let me just say this. Let's say she's 3, 4, 5, whatever, right? Steven, you don't know what the hell you're doing as a parent, and that's okay. And it's okay to admit that. And what that means is that you feel like you're supposed to know what to do in this situation. And the truth is like none of us really know what to do in your situation. But feeling like you should have the answer is probably not going to be as good as just trying some different things out and experimenting and practicing being a good parent every single day.
As Rob Bell say, it's the parents' first job is to enjoy their children.
Yeah.
It's not their only job, right? But if you can enjoy your children, even here where they're frustrating you with their hoard, because that's what kids do. They test boundaries. And one of those boundaries is how much stuff they bring into their life, into your home. They're also testing your boundaries and seeing what you're willing to tolerate. And you can not tolerate the stuff, but you can do so in a way that is loving and filled with gratitude and freeing, as opposed to stifling and feeling really restrictive for your child.
Yeah, expressing curiosity and establishing boundaries go hand in hand too. So when you gave the example of like, why do you want to bring a dead squirrel into the house? It doesn't mean you have to be this pretentious pushover who's like, oh yeah, that's just fine, honey. Go ahead and bring the dead squirrel in the house. The minimalist told me I ought to be curious. It's all equal to me. No, you can actually establish a boundary by saying, no, I can't let you bring that in the house. No, I can't let you bring that in the house. And if they're not too mad to talk to you right then and there, you can also wait till later and take them for a walk and say, talk to me. What's up with the squirrel? Tell me about that. Why'd you want to bring that? And it could be something as simple as, oh, I don't know. But expressing that curiosity doesn't mean you have to be a pushover. It means you are simply choosing to treat them as a human being that's worth connecting with, even over the things that are concerning and that are difficult to understand.
I hope you enjoyed that highlight from the Minimalist Private Podcast. If you'd like another highlight, check out this video. If you'd like to watch the minimal episode, check out this video. Or if you'd like to dive deep into full episodes of the Minimalist Private Podcast, head on over to Patreon. The link is in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.